So hello and welcome to the very first Go Race Promotions E-Series race, as we are going on our warm-up lap, as we'd better just get the spectator car off the track there. So obviously on pole position is Chris Nipris. On second position is Brent Dixon. Third position, Matt Southwell. And the final position is Brent Dixon. So Kurt Woodward in second. As we are just getting the cars around for their warm-up lap ahead of our rolling start. We see Ben Piper already in the stream, saying good luck to his fellow competitors. Unfortunately, Ben Piper was not able to join us tonight after bad internet issues. I believe it was a router and NBN failure. As the field makes their way down to the bottom carousel, they do have 1.5 minutes left before they have to get into formation. And get ready for the rolling start. Hopefully by the time they come to the line, they'll be in a formation. Ready for a start. As they have less than a minute to get to the final chicane. Chris Nipris controlling the pace rather well. Southwell just dips a wheel into the dirt, trying to warm up his tyres. As now they come up to the final chicane, they will get into position. As we swap to our proper TV camera. As now they get into position, they are ready for a start. They come around the final corner, 5 seconds to go. We are getting set for a start in 2020 as we are racing. Not quite racing yet as... Yeah, now we're away. So, bit of confusion with the starting procedure there as Nipris takes an early lead, but it does look like as if Matt Southwell will slot into... As look at that, Kurt Woodward up the inside, barges his way past the number 61. So Kurt Woodward now leads the race ahead of Chris Nipris in the number 61 Corvette, but Nipris is fighting back coming down into turn 3. As he does make his way through, as Southwell will look to try and make his way through the hole made by either Woodward or Nipris. These two drivers side by side for I don't know how many corners, as now Dixon is now getting into the battle. Southwell looks to go the long way around, going into turn number 5, but now they fall line astern. Chris Nipris with about 2 car lengths ahead of Kurt Woodward, as Southwell tries to sneak up the inside of Woodward, but out in front it is Chris Nipris in the number 61 Corvette. He leads the way from Kurt Woodward, Matt Southwell, and Dixon has a touch in the background there. Dixon and Southwell both spin out going through the carousel. So an unfortunate bit of contact from both drivers. But Dixon does the gentlemanly thing and does readdress the situation, so there will be no need for a post-race penalty. But that has unfortunately taken both of those two effectively out of this race unless they can use the strategy to bring themselves back to the battle between Nipris and Woodward. As you can keep an eye on the gaps up in the top left corner, as we can hear someone spinning, someone turned around, as that's Woodward. So So Kurt Woodward has got it wrong coming out down through the right-hander, and that has left Chris Nipris way out in front with an 8.6 second gap over Matt Southwell. Of course, these drivers do have a pit stop, mandatory pit stop, between 20 minutes and 40 minutes of racing. So that is a massive gap that Matt Southwell has to make up on Chris Nipris. So we're not sure what happened to Kurt Woodward. I imagine he may have gotten a little bit too over-eager on the curb and punched himself out way wide. So unfortunately, these drivers are now spread out. But now we can see Matt Southwell. This is probably where the McLaren is strongest over the Corvette, through these tight, twisty sections. The mid-engine car rotating a little bit quicker than the front-engine Corvette. As we say that, he is 0.3 of a second off of Chris Nipris. So Southwell looking to close the gap on Chris Nipris. Of course, Matt Southwell jumped into the number 16 Go Race Promotion CRG over the weekend for the first round of 4 SKA. And Southwell did an unbelievable job in his first race in karts for a couple of years. And now Southwell is starting to close that gap ever so slightly to Chris Nipris. It's now under 8 seconds, so Southwell on the move. But that is not going to help him. Getting it all wrong through that left-hander. That corner is so easy to just get sucked into thinking you can carry the brakes just a little bit later than what you actually can. So now Southwell, all that work has been undone. But Woodward is now also closing the gap to Dixon. So the two DKS Corvettes now line astern. Well, not really line astern, but they are third and fourth, as Chris Nipris now sets another fastest lap. Now Southwell goes even faster, 1:59.6 from Southwell. So Southwell still closing that gap to Nipris as we focus on Kurt Woodward. He had an absolutely brilliant start, barged his way past the number 61 in turn 1, and a big brake lock-up from Woodward. He's just got to gather himself up again, calm down, and get himself back into that rhythm. There's a big slide coming out of turn 2. Just got to let the race come to you. It is 1 hour of racing. You don't win it in the first 10 minutes, but you can certainly lose it. As we switch our focus to our race leader, Chris Nipris in the number 61 Corvette. Headlights ablaze. Everything just seemed to work out in Nipris's favour. Managed to hang on to the lead. Now Nipris will just get into that rhythm. We can see the chat is getting very interesting as Chris Nipris coming into the pits very early. The pit window has not opened. The pit window is not open for the number 61. I cannot imagine what is going wrong with the Corvette this early in the race. It may have picked up some sort of damage. So I cannot imagine why Chris Nipris has pitted so early. That is bizarre. He's going to have to make 2 stops. That is a very bizarre decision from Chris Nipris. So number 61 is in the pits, and that leaves number 37 out in front. That is absolutely bizarre. He should have known that the pit window opens after 20 minutes of racing. So Chris Nipris has come in 13 minutes too early. that has gifted Matt Southwell the lead of this motor race. So that is absolutely bizarre. So I can't imagine what went wrong with Chris Nipris, unless maybe he forgot to refuel the car between the race and qualifying. That is very weird. But anyway, out in front is the number 37 McLaren of Matthew Southwell. Got involved in a lap 1 incident at the bottom carousel. And now finds himself in the lead of this motor race and pulling out away from Brent Dixon. As Southwell puts the McLaren into the wall, just trying to grab too much curb, and that will give the lead to Brent Dixon. But this has been an absolutely bizarre race at the moment. Drivers making mistakes left and right. So this has tightened the race right up. Unbelievable race so far. What a start to the Go Race Promotions E-Series. So now we shift our focus to Brent Dixon, your current race leader. But keep an eye on that time in the top left-hand corner of the screen. Chris Nipris is closing the gap. It was at 33 seconds, it's now at 27.7. So I'd say Chris has become aware that he has made a mistake and now is pushing as hard as he can to try and close the gap. As we see Dixon run a little bit wide, and that will give Matt Southwell a bit of a run on the number 13. So how close can these drivers get? As we see in the background, Kurt Woodward sending smoke signals from the front right of that Corvette. So this battle for the lead, very, very tight as Matt Southwell closes up on the back of the number 13 Corvette. As they all get a little bit, they get the apex a little bit wrong that time. As now the Corvettes really stretch their legs coming up this long back straight up to the final chicane. Flames belching from all three cars. But at the moment, Brent Dixon out in front of Matthew Southwell. Of course, the DKS cars, their liveries are designed by Go Race by Design, as Kurt Woodward now sets a 1:58.9. Brilliant lap time from Woodward. As Southwell sends it up the inside, and he will now take back the lead. So Matt Southwell, but Dixon fights back on the inside as they both give each other plenty of room, and Dixon will just about hold on to it. He's got the inside line for turn number 3, that's correct. And he holds on to the lead, and that brings Kurt Woodward back into the mix. But keep an eye on that time. This time right here. It's now down to 26.9 as these three drivers getting very close. Woodward and Southwell almost swapping paint, coming into the downhill left-hander. And what a race we've got going at the moment. We're in the weak point of the McLaren, but the brakes are so good on that McLaren. It's going to be very difficult for those DKS cars. Oh, Woodward almost loops it on the exit of the carousel as they come up through the Schumacher S. These three cars line astern. What brilliant racing. So 8 minutes left until the pit window opens. Unbelievable mistake from Chris Nipris. He's going to have to come through the pit lane one more time. As Southwell gets it very, very sideways. That's going to give Woodward a run on the number 37. There's just no opportunity to pass here coming up into this final chicane as Southwell gets all over the exit curb. Does open the door a little bit to Woodward, but Woodward just can't capitalise just yet. But now we're into the strong section for the Corvette. But he has to outbrake the McLaren as well, and we've already seen how good that McLaren is under brakes as we focus on Southwell. As Woodward looks as though he's going to send it up the inside, he can't quite do it. As Southwell closes up on the back of Dixon, so the number 37 McLaren really strong on the brakes. Of course, the two Corvettes, they do not have ABS, whereas the McLaren does have ABS. So feel free, if you're watching right now, to get involved in the chat and ask us whatever questions you like at the moment. Although, right now, watching this race, I don't think I want to be watching chat at all. As Woodward thinks about a move going into turn number 5. But Southwell has him covered, this time by. As we focus back on Brent Dixon, the current leader of this motor race. 6 minutes left until the pit window opens. As we look in the background, Woodward and Southwell were just about side by side into the bottom carousel. Woodward unable to make the gap. As Chris Nipris here is now closing really well, really quickly on these three drivers. Their battling is absolutely helping him, but he has got a lot of work to do. I cannot imagine. As Southwell, did he spin? He did spin. So Southwell, another mistake. Number 37 McLaren, and he gets it turned around, and he will fire it back up and get it down the hill. This leaves the two Dixon Kartsport guys out in front by themselves. Massive gap now between themselves and Matt Southwell. Now these two guys obviously in the same team. Will they work together, or are we going to see a bit of inter-garage battling going on here? So 1:59.8 from Dixon and a 59.5 from Woodward. Now I'm pretty sure that Chris Nipris is in the 59.1s. Those drivers get their cars pulled up. Of course, Matt Southwell, he's got a lot of work to do now. There's still plenty of time for these guys to make a mistake. Now the 1:58.7 from Chris Nipris, so Chris Nipris is on the move. I'm pretty certain he is now aware that he has made a mistake with that early pit stop. He must have forgotten to refuel his car. Cannot imagine why he would pit that early. So Woodward, he is clear. I think he is faster than Dixon at this stage of the race. We'll just have to wait and see what these two drivers do with their strategies. Of course, each driver has their own pit box, so there's no double stacking going on. It's just limestone for these two DKS cars as Dixon, a little bit too much exit space there. Both cars hard on the brakes. I think Woodward, he did make a mistake. He's lost a fair bit of time. I think a bit of mid-corner oversteer. That's given Dixon a bit of a break from his own teammate. Just keep an eye on that gap. For 4th place, that is coming down. But Nipris will have to stop a second time this race. That is just bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. Tell you what, Matt Southwell, he is fighting back. He's got the gap back down under 10 seconds. As Matt Southwell, as we speak of the devil, he sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:58.6. So Southwell on the move. He is closing the gap to these two drivers, the two DKS Corvettes. As Chris Nipris unable to better that time, he does a 1:59.0, so he is also catching these two drivers. Woodward, he's closed right back onto the back of his teammate. And he is now probing for a move. So we're looking at the number 9 Corvette. It's very hard to make a move going into the bottom carousel because drivers will always tend to angle the cars into the apex and turn it into a double apex. Keep an eye on the gaps on the top left there. Matt Southwell, he's got that gap back down under 9 seconds now. So the number 37 McLaren keen to make up for that mistake as Woodward makes a mistake going through the final chicane. And he locks up the brakes. So again, that brake blocking issue for Woodward has not gone away. As we have a look at the times of 59.8 versus a 59.7. So Woodward is definitely the faster of these two Dixon DKS Corvettes. And Matt Southwell sets another fastest lap. So 158.5 for Southwell. He is definitely on the move. He is catching these two drivers hand over fist. More than a second per lap. And Chris Nipris is also catching these two drivers. A 159.3 for Nipris, so he is losing touch with Southwell, but he is still catching these two DKS Corvettes. I think Dixon is a bit of a cork in the bottle at the moment. Woodward just moving around in the mirror. Would probably do well to switch his headlights on as well. Of course, these drivers are able to switch on the headlights and flash them, put as much pressure as possible on each other. As both Woodward and Dixon lock brakes going into the carousel as a bit of a slide for both of them as well on the exit. You can just visually see that gap between themselves and that McLaren getting smaller and smaller. So Southwell, he is on the move as we are now 20 seconds away from the pit window opening. A big lock-up again from Woodward. Now, of course, these drivers in the pit stop, they have to take a minimum 1 litre of fuel or change tyres or a combination of the two. So, can be certain that strategies are going to start playing out here. Will these drivers try and make the tyres last, or are they going to just go for fuel as Woodward makes a mistake? That is going to fall into the hands of his teammate, Brent Dixon. So Dixon, a bit of a breather now, 3 seconds, as the pits are now open at the top of the screen there. There's Matt Southwell at 158.2, so Southwell, he is on a charge. We're going to actually pick him up. He is absolutely on maximum attack. Whatever he has done between the official practice session and now, it has worked a treat for that McLaren. It is just, he is on rails at the moment. So Southwell, fastest driver on the track. And Chris Nipris is also coming back, but again, we have to reiterate, he has pitted too early as Southwell off the track into the gravel trap. So commentators curse, unfortunately. Southwell has been flirting with danger all race long, as that has cost him everything he has worked for in the last few minutes. So we now focus back on our leader, Brent Dixon. Got a bit of a gap to his teammate, Kurt Woodward. All he really has to do is just focus, just keep moving forward, not look in the mirror, not look at the gaps. again through the flip-flop. Does not come in this time round. No drivers are coming into the pits this early. Drivers are waiting to see what their tyres are going to do. So all these drivers are on the Control medium compound tyre. So there's no softs, no hards. Going through the chat at the moment. Don't forget, if you're watching us live right now, feel free to ask us a question. We're happy to answer anything you might have about the Go Race Promotions E-Series. I'm seeing a few comments. Matt Southwell, nickname on Steam is Twisty. Twisty is Rage Driver. We're going to have to check that out, as he is missing apexes just slightly. So, I'd also like to apologise to anyone who has been asking questions. I've only just changed the live chat to on instead of top chat. So, feel free to fire away any questions you might have. And we'd love to get you involved in the Go Race Promotions E-Series. You see Matt Southwell running a little wide. Look at that gap. That gap to fourth, 22.2 seconds. That was 32 seconds just 15 minutes ago. So Chris Nipris, he is on a charge. As we're starting to see times falling away. 2 minutes and 1 minute 59.4. Yeah, thank you, Ben. Welcome to YouTube streaming. Yes, of course, I'd like to point out that this is the first time we've actually done live streaming, so I think we're doing a pretty good job. Thank you, Ben. Of course, Ben Piper sitting there in chat instead of on the track. Fortunately, internet failed him at the 11th hour. So we hope to see Matt on track for round number 2. And of course, we're also missing Tony Hutcho in the Porsche 911, sorry, the number 912. There's a question coming in from Ruka. Why aren't they into the 57s yet? That is a very good question. You probably find that tyres are starting to wear out, and fuel, even though the fuel loads are coming down, as we can see in the background there, the battle for first is starting to get a little bit tighter. 2.4 seconds the gap between Woodward and Dixon. Thanks for the compliment there, Ben. I'm glad you're enjoying the stream, although I'm sure you'd prefer to be out there with these guys having a race. Possibly still too high on some of these guys. Of course, a very good strategy is to run a high fuel load and then try to save so that you're not in the pits for as long. And you can save fuel by coasting before you jump on the brakes or changing gears a little earlier. So 2 minute flat for Dixon and a 58.6 for Woodward. So Woodward obviously on a lighter fuel load to Dixon perhaps, or maybe looking after his tyres a little bit better, as we see more smoke signals from the first of the DKS cars there. As Matt Southwell 59.5, so his pace has dropped off, and a 2 minute 6 for Chris Nipris. These drivers still have to make a pit stop in the next 13 minutes. So these drivers are still... I'm getting the impression that maybe one or two of these drivers are just trying to save their tyres. spend less time in the pits. Of course, we had a few drivers try that strategy in one of our fun races at Spa, and it didn't quite go to plan. Is damage on? Yes, damage is on, but we've turned the multiplier down to about 25%, just to allow for human error. Obviously, online racing is a little bit harder than real life racing, and of course we have to take into account different connections and ping, and obviously desync. Driver that suddenly desyncs, crashes into a couple of people, could ruin other people's races. Pretty well what you see is what you get at the moment. The two DKS cars out in front. Leading the way as we are getting down to half an hour left in this race. There's a 1:59.1 from Dixon, so he responds, but another 58.8 from Woodward. So Woodward, he has found a rhythm as a big lock-up again. As now we see the first of the pit stops, the official pit stops. Matt Southwell into the pits. So he's possibly going for tyres, possibly going for fuel as well. So he surrenders third place to Chris Nipris. As we rejoin the battle for first. So now, will these two drivers respond? Southwell, he has been the fastest man on track all race. Now these guys, they will have a lap grace as Southwell tries to put temperature into the tyres. And a couple of drivers commenting that it is very difficult to get temperature back into the tyres. As potentially we have a spin from Southwell. No, he's still going, so that's good. Matt Southwell now on stone cold tyres. And that is just going to be like driving on ice after spending the first half hour on nice grippy warm tyres. Southwell's really going to have to change his driving style as well as a full fuel load. Now Matt Southwell, he's got to try and make hay while the sun shines, while he has new rubber and fuel to the end. Is Woody going to attempt to pass before pitting or no point? That is a very good question. As we see, actually, as you asked that question, both the DKS cars are now in the pits, so this will be very interesting. We are going to stay with this because this will be very telling to see what their strategies are like. Who has looked after the tyres properly? Who has looked after the fuel? And who is going to get out of the pits first? You may think that that Dixon will get out first, but it's not always the case as we are getting set. As Nipris keeps going. As now, yes, it's Dixon out of the pits first, but only just ahead of Woodward. So this is for effectively the lead of the race, so they had to respond to Southwell. They had to respond to Southwell. Now both these guys are on stone cold tyres. Well, we're assuming they are on stone cold tyres. There's a 2:06 lap from Chris Nipris, so yes, I do believe a bit of a mistake was made by Chris Nipris if he's done a lap time like that. So now these two, well, they're already up to pace pretty well. They may not have gone for tyres. So these guys could be taking the gamble of no tyres. Then they will be in a situation where they may not have any grip left at the very important end of the race as Dixon goes defensive on his teammate. Woodward only just keeps it on the track, right on the white line. So, very good piece of driving by these two drivers. They are, of course, teammates, but this is just giving Southwell all the opportunity he needs to get back in touch with these two drivers. The gap is now just over 10 seconds between Southwell and the DKS battle. So we're also going to focus on Chris Nipris. He will be kicking himself after making a pit stop so early, assuming he stays out again. So Chris Nipris really he only has one option. He has to make this last. He has to make this last until 20 minutes to go. He does a 59.6. Chris Nipris, he may be the leader, but he still has to make his official pit stop. But he has got pace in the number 61 Corvette. Just see he is starting to pull out the gap ahead of the battle between the two DKS cars. He has 6 minutes to make his official pit stop as we see a change for position. The DKS cars have swapped positions, so as this battle is getting very feisty, they bash doors together. So, Woodward and Dixon, they're side by side going into the downhill left-hander. Woodward falls in behind his teammate. Very entertaining exchange between these two drivers. As Brent Dixon just hangs on for another lap, but that is just going to give all the invitation to close that gap to Matt Southwell. Already he's under 9 seconds behind this battle, which is effectively for the lead of the race. Yeah, no team orders there. That's a good as Woodward off the track. So again, Woodward makes a mistake, a critical mistake on his teammate. Now, this is going to be very interesting because these drivers are losing roughly about 30 to 40 seconds in the pit lane. And these two DKS cars, they are starting to get very, very dangerously close to making a horrible mistake and gifting a potential easy win to Chris Nipris. If they fall far enough behind Nipris, Nipris could potentially jump in the pits and come out ahead of these two. And remember, he only has to take on 1 litre of fuel in order for it to be a legal pit stop. So these drivers are now spread out nicely. But we'd rather them maybe a little bit closer than that. But Southwell he's gaining on these two. So Dixon is the cork in the bottle at the moment. I'm not sure what these guys took on in the pit stop. Considering these guys were already showing a lot of pace and grip after their pit stop, I would say they did not take tyres. So that's a huge gamble for these two. Maybe they think that the Corvette looks after the tyres. That was one of the comments I heard from Chris Nipris, that the Corvette looks after the tyres really well. That's what these two DKS cars are gambling on at the moment. Southwell here is coming. He's just picked up 3/10 on these two. He's got 6 seconds behind Kurt Woodward and 7 seconds behind Brent Dixon. There's a bit of a lock-up and running wide for Kurt Woodward. He's starting to drive a little bit erratically, trying to close the gap to his teammate again. Forget how many times he has had to do that. Just this race alone, he's had to close the gap over and over and over to his teammate, Brent Dixon. So we can see that McLaren is starting to catch. It is starting to catch the back of these two. Just see him, he's getting closer and closer. He's appearing in shot a lot earlier each lap. A 59.1 from Dixon, a 58.8 from Woodward. Let's see what, a 58.3 from Southwell. So Southwell on the move. And this is, just a reminder, this is effectively the battle for the lead of this race. The current leader, Chris Nipris, must have forgotten to set his fuel load before the race. Had to be pitted on the second lap for unknown reasons. And he will have to make another pit stop. There's the battle between the 13 and the 9. It starts to get tighter again. As Chris Nipris, we just see Nipris there. He's made a mistake coming out of carousel, so that is just disastrous for the number 61. It's just getting worse and worse. This is the round from hell for the 61. As that car is skating around, I think his tyres are done. So he will have to pit this lap. He will not be able to make it around the track in time before the pit window closes. So we expect to see the 61 to come into the pits this time by. Yes, he does. Sure, he will either take 1 litre of fuel or just tyres. Not really sure. I have no idea what to expect with this stop. But you can bet that Nipris will be absolutely kicking himself right now. Disastrous, absolutely disastrous race as he now falls back to 3rd position as we wait for Southwell. 58.9 for Southwell, so he is closing. Oh, the agonising wait for the 61 now. The agonising wait for the pit stop to be done. We can pretty well effectively say that the number 61 is out of this race. 28.9 seconds behind the leader now. 30 seconds now. Unless something happens. As he's struggling for grip, so he has probably taken new tyres. Let's see. We'll have to keep an eye on the number 61. Keep an eye on the time right over here. As we refocus on the battle for the lead. We're also happy to see 6 people currently following the stream. If you've got a question about the E-Series, make sure you ask it in the chat. We're keeping an eye on it. We're happy to answer every question that you might have if you want to be involved in the E-Series for the remaining 4 rounds. And of course, with the point system, 25 points for a win, 20 points for second, 16 points for third, and 13 points for fourth. Any driver can miss a round and come back. There's a 58.4 for Woodward. And a 57.9, another fastest lap for Matt Southwell. So Southwell, he is on the roll. He is on the move again. And he is closing the gap to these 2 Corvettes out in front. Absolutely disastrous round for Nipris after such a strong start to the race. Could have been right up there with these guys and battling. Oh, Dixon very wide. He misses the apex. He is now under pressure from his teammate. So, Woodward moving around in the mirror. He's going to look up the inside. Will he send it? He does send it. And a little bit of a touch there, and then Woodward's off. Woodward's off. he tried it, but you could just see he locked that front wheel. Oh, incredible battling between these two. You wouldn't think that they're teammates, but they are actually teammates. No penalty from Steve Southwell. Hello, Steve. Nice of you to join us, mate. So, Steve Southwell joining the stream to watch his son race. So we'll focus on him for a little while. He is the fastest man on track at the moment, a 57.9, an unbelievable lap this late in the race. So Southwell here has got the eyes on. He is chasing down Woodward. 59.1 from Southwell versus a 2:02 from Woodward. But we'll have to keep an eye on that top left window just to see what lap time Nippers is doing. Just keep an eye on that top left corner. A 58.8 for Chris Nippers, so he is on the move. But he's only got 16 minutes left in this motor race to try and close the gap. And then, of course, catching is one thing, but passing is a completely different story. So if you're just joining us now, Chris Nippers in the number 61 Corvette. He had a great advantage at the start of the race, and then for unknown reasons, he pulled into the pits on the first lap, well outside of the pit window. Southwell really driving hard. Trying to close the gap. Southwell is driving a lot better this evening than what he was in the practice session. Gets it a little bit wrong going through the downhill right-hander, but he is catching. He is catching Woodward, and Woodward will be aware of this. Any of the top three can still take it, that's correct. Well, any driver on the track can still take it. 15 minutes to go, anything can happen. All that really needs to happen is for all three of these drivers to close up. Bit of a touch up here and there, maybe into turn one, and that could bring Nippers straight back into the fight. A 58.5 from Southwell versus 59s from the DKS cars. Yes, that is something to take into consideration. Southwell has been driving super hard this last 15 odd minutes. He could have taken too much out of the tyres. That is going to hurt his pace later in the race. Chris Nippers, he got that gap back down to 31 seconds. Was up to 37 a little earlier, as we're seeing smoke signals from Kurt Woodward. He is under pressure from Southwell. And then, of course, the aero wash between the Corvette and the McLaren. Of course, that's going to be playing havoc. GT3 cars fairly reliant on downforce. As we've just heard a car spearing off in the background, and that is the number 61. The nightmare continues. That will be the end of any comeback for Chris Nippers. So Chris Nippers will have to settle for 13 points to open up his account for 2020. As we focus back on the battle for second, as it is getting really tight between these two drivers. Will we start seeing a bit of rear gunning going on. Although the McLaren is very strong under brakes. Well, Southwell tried. He does try it. He's up the inside. He outbrakes himself slightly. Woodward will switch back, but it does look like as if Southwell, he gets his nose chopped off by the Corvette. So Southwell, we've seen this all race. He is not scared to have a go under brakes. That is his favourite point on the circuit. To have a go at a passing manoeuvre. More smoke signals from Woodward. That opens the door slightly for Southwell. Does give Southwell room, but the torque of the Corvette will get it out of the carousel very well up the hill. Southwell have no choice but to file in behind the Corvette again. But he's got an opening. He comes up the inside of the number 9. He's on the brakes. And they're both off the track. Very wide, but Southwell, he now takes second position. Both drivers on the absolute limit of braking there. Don't think there will be a need for an investigation of track limits. So now, Woodward, he's now in the position to put pressure on Southwell. The gap to Dixon has blown out to 4 seconds while those two have been fighting. 59.5 from Dixon versus a 59.9 and 2 minutes 6 from the chasing pair. Southwell is the man to watch at the moment as he goes in very deep. Manages to hold off Woodward again. This is just allowing Dixon to get away. So Woodward right on the back of Southwell. It's his opportunity for a bit of a send. Come to the downhill right-hander. This is where the Corvettes are actually pretty strong. They've got a lot of straight line pace and torque. It's very hard to pull away from the Corvettes in this section of the circuit. The McLaren is very good at turning. You can see that Southwell is just starting to pull away from Woodward. The comment there from Steve Southwell, Matt always liked a bit of a chase. Well, that is true. Of course, we're going to go back to Saturday when Matt Southwell was behind the wheel of the number 16 CRG from Go Race Promotions during the 4SKA endurance race. And Southwell was actually matching Paul Morano in the number 40 Dudley's kart. Paul Morano is probably one of the best endurance drivers in New South Wales karting. Southwell really on form at the moment. Kurt Woodward's not letting him go. So we're in the strong section for the McLaren now. McLaren a little bit lighter, and he's gone very, very sideways. He just saw it. He got onto the AstroTurf. That he hasn't lost a position, and he's lost time to Dixon. McLaren's starting to looking like it's getting a little twitchy there. And yeah, a new racing line. Yeah, that's correct, Ben. Bit unorthodox, but it works. Certainly helps you. Doesn't seem to work though. limit. He wants this win. Dixon is a very experienced competitor. Obviously, Dixon having raced. As we say that, Dixon has spun out. He has made a horrible mistake. So Dixon surrenders the lead of the race. I don't know how he's done that. He had a 3-second gap. And he's just thrown it away. That's absolutely disastrous for Brent Dixon. I think maybe the tyres are starting to go on the number 13 Corvette, so I don't think he took tyres in the pit stop. Absolutely disastrous for Dixon. It looked like he had the race all sewn up. But now, the lead of the race has been surrendered to Matt Southwell. Although Kurt Woodward is still on the back of him. And another mistake from Southwell, so the tyres are starting to go on all three of these cars. You never know. Chris Nipris could find his way back into the battle. Comment there, Woody has to go hard now. Well, that's all well and good, but has he got the tyres left? All these drivers, they pitted rather early in the pit stop window. They'll be on very used rubber at the moment. So optimistic about Chris. Well, yeah, that's a fair call. But anything can happen. 5 minutes to go. It's never over until the race is over, as we say that. Matt Southwell, very twitchy, locks the rear brakes going into the left-hander. And Woodward follows him in. So it's on between these two. This is for the first blood of the 2020 season of the Go Race Promotions E-Series. Forget the 2020 season. This is going to be the first winner of the E-Series. We hope to see this grid expand. If you want to join the series, make sure you get in touch with us either on our Facebook page or via our email, gorace_events@outlook.com. Now these two, Matt Southwell, very defensive, very early, as big lockup from Woodward. That tyre that will have left a flat spot on that tyre for sure. Now Woodward right back onto the back of the number 37. These two drivers showing each other a lot of respect. Let's see Steve Southwell in the chat. Obviously the father of Matt Southwell. Nothing much has changed for those two. Steve Southwell stressing on the side of the track, whether it's in karts or whether it's in sim racing. Just under 4 minutes to go. Southwell wide. That's going to give Woodward a run. See, the gap is starting to close down again as Woodward locks that brake again. And Southwell wide, very wide. This is unbelievable racing. Very tense between these two. McLaren versus the Corvette as Southwell slaps that sausage curb. So does Woodward. That's going to give Woodward a bit of a run, but Southwell goes defensive very deep. Now Woodward just needs to tuck in behind the number 37 McLaren. They go down the long main straight at the Nürburgring. Will Woodward pull out of the slipstream and go for a dive? The McLaren got some straight line pace though. And then it has the braking capabilities as well, as the brakes lock up again for the Corvette. very exciting racing going on. This is an absolute dream come true for the first round of the E-Series. We hope that you watching at home are thinking about getting involved in this. Running on the Assetto Corsa simulation program. We would love you to join us. Make this grid even bigger. What a start. May only be a small field, but what quality of racing we've had for the last 58 minutes or so, as we dip into under 2 minutes to go in this motor race. So they'll have one more lap and then another lap after this. Woodward is putting the pressure on Southwell. McLaren does have a slight straight line speed advantage, it seems. It does seem to be very hard on its tyres. You can see the cars are moving around a lot as they come onto the main straight. A 58.3 from Southwell versus a 58.6. So Woodward, he's lost a bit of pace. 1 minute left to go in this race. So this is the penultimate lap of the first round of the Go Race Promotions E-Series. And we are not going to leave this battle. So Woodward is on the limit everywhere. Locking brakes. Trying to stay in touch with the number 37 McLaren. Southwell. He's out in front at the moment. 10 seconds left in the race. The next lap will be the final lap as they both run wide. Going through the bottom carousel. Dixon's out of it. He's 13 seconds behind. See him flashing through in the background there. So I think I may have gotten it wrong. This could be the final lap now. I thought these drivers would have had one more lap to go. But it does look like this is the final lap for Matt Southwell as he brings it up the hill one more time. Going into the flip-flop. Slaps the curb again. Does that give Woodward an opening? He tries to send it up the inside. But if I'm not mistaken, that will be a win for Matt Southwell. And it certainly is. There's a fantastic win for Matt Southwell after a terrible, terrible practice session. He was more than a second, almost 2 seconds off the pace. Matt Southwell comes back and wins the first round of the Go Race Promotions E-Series. Brilliant battle between himself and the Corvettes of Kurt Woodward and Brent Dixon. Let's not forget Kurt Woodward in the number 9. He had to battle his way through. He had a strong start. We can hear someone doing a donut, as of course it is Brent Dixon. Might have to turn the traction control down there. There we go. That was a bit decent. A fantastic race from all 4 of these drivers. And a disastrous round for this man. He was looking so strong after practice. We'll have to talk to him after the race and find out what actually went wrong for the number 61 Corvette. But 13 points in the bank. The championship is not over. 23 points in total. I don't think we'll do a post-race interview with Chris just yet. Might be a bit angry. We'll give him a day to cool down, I think. But there's your man right there, Matt Southwell, winner of the first round of the Go Race Promotions E-Series. Incredible drive from Southwell. And we hope you at home, wherever you have joined us from around the world, hope you've really enjoyed the E-Series, and I hope you really want to get involved with us. It is a great community of drivers, very friendly, everyone does help each other, and we would absolutely love you to be on the grid with us. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we hope to see you for round 2 of the Go Race Promotions E-Series as soon as possible. Thank you for